When I planted potatoes, I didn't plant the big jumbo ones that are like, they're bigger than the size of my hand, or probably about the size of my hand, because it was just way too big for me to plant. So in this case, I am going to, I have a friend who wants to plant potatoes, and there's an eyes basically on each end. There is some in the middle, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut it in half, and I'm gonna let it score over. And so now we have these two size potatoes with eyes on each end, and I'm gonna just sit them face up so that they can scab over, and then we'll plant them in my friend's garden. But for now, let's see, I have another one here. I'm just trying to see the best angle to cut it. So again, this one has already started sprouting. These sprouts is not as big, but definitely some sprouts there. And you just want to keep them till they harden over, and then we can scab over, and then we can plant them. I said I've done this in, I think the first year I gardened, I did it, but I didn't like it because a lot of the times they would shrivel up. I guess they weren't as big. I don't really remember. It was a lot of years ago when I tried it, and so I've just never tried it again. I've always just got smaller potatoes since then and just planted them whole. Which this one I could have planted this size potato. It's not as, you know, compared to this. Is basically I just cut it like, it's basically almost the same size. So I don't know, I could leave this one whole. There are some baby sprouts around it, or I could cut it since I'm cutting the rest. But I'm gonna be planting these in my friend's garden, and so I want them to scab over. She doesn't have a big space, and so I want to get her the most. And if anything that doesn't fit inside her garden, I'm going to plant in grow bags. I have a bunch of grow bags inside the hoop house. I don't even see any sprouts on this end of the potato. I'm gonna still cut it in half, and because I don't even see eyes on this end. But oh my goodness, I didn't realize there were so many. So I still have, yeah, she's probably not gonna be able to fit all of these inside her garden, which is fine. We'll just plant some in grow bags. I think you're supposed to leave them for, what was it? I don't know if it says start scabbing over in like 3 days. I don't really remember, but I'm doing this before I go outside because I got an alarm on my phone yesterday that we are 4 weeks from our last frost date now, and so that's the time that I usually plant. This is, so the one I was just cutting was white potato. These are the red potatoes. I'm just looking it over. 4 weeks is usually about the time that we start. Ooh, that was already molded on the inside. That was already bad. So I don't know about that one. I'll probably throw this one away since it didn't have sprouts yet anyway. But anyway, 4 weeks from our last frost date is really the time that this one might have moldy on the inside too, because it was cut right there. Did I ever finish that sentence? That's funny. It's usually the time that I plant melons, squash, cucumbers, pumpkins, which is basically March 5th. When I looked on my calendar at the Farmer's Almanac, it basically said March 5th is the date to like March 20 something is when you can start planting those things. But before I do that, I have a bunch of seedlings that I planted maybe 2 weeks ago, and there's another one that looks like that. I have a bunch of seedlings that I planted 2 weeks ago. What was it? Basils, zinnias, and or was it just basils and zinnias that are in the hoop house? They have not done a great job at sprouting, and I don't know if last year I used these seeds and they all sprouted, and so I don't know if something happened, if I accidentally left them out in the heat or whatever. But I'll show you. I have really poor germination, especially now that I have this whole tray. I'm gonna sit it inside of my glass room to start scabbing over, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with the basils and the zinnias. There's actually a pause in the rain. It's just like lightly drizzling, but there was a downpour this morning. Right now it's just drizzling. I'm trying to run to the hoop house to get in there. It's supposed to rain for the rest of the day, but of course we'll be covered inside the hoop house to get the rest of these seedlings planted. You can see how it is actually flooded in here. So that's how much rain we've gotten. That's wild, because it is low at the front end of the hoop house, so it's just flooded over here. But yesterday I showed you guys how my girls were getting all of these soil containers filled for me, so that when I up-pot the tomatoes, these I up-potted, but I lost the tags, so I don't really know what they are. And all of the tomatoes that I need to finish up-potting. But you can see these are the marigolds here. Really, the French dwarf did not germinate. We did have some Cracker Jack germinate, and then you can see how many zinnias, and I planted a good amount, probably like 2 to 3 seeds in each one, and you can see all those different varieties, and I didn't really have much germination, so we need to replant them. I got my container of seeds out here, so we'll need to replant some basils. If I have time, I'll sprinkle some carrot seeds and some beets outside. I don't know if we'll get to any of these cucumbers, melons, squashes, zucchinis, or pumpkins, but we'll definitely replant the basils and the zinnias, and we'll check on the seedlings I potted up yesterday that were looking limp. So all of them except for this one actually is damaged. I wonder if my cat jumped up here, because then this one as well, it's broken. But all the rest of them that were limp is now standing up with a good water. So that's awesome. These are the ones that I up-potted yesterday, and some were looking a little wilty, and these are the ones that I had already up-potted. They look great. One of the things I called my son out here to do, I want to move this shelving to face this way, because the sun comes from this way and goes over, and I realized that this second shelf wasn't really getting light because it's only coming straight above and over. But if I turn it this way, it will have a whole chance to get sun from the front and from the back. And so he's gonna come in here. We do have to move this stuff around, and so that we can be able to turn this.
How am I supposed to do it?
So I don't really know what's going on with my zinnia seeds. Like, I have this whole pack of zinnia seeds. It probably has more than 30 varieties, and some of them I just got last year, like these California Giants right here. It says 2023, and I have no idea why the California Giants have, yeah, I'm just looking at them right now, 0 germination. So I don't know if the soil was just too wet or what. Having them like underneath here and it being hot and humid, if it just kind of, you know, kept the soil too damp and killed the seeds. Because you can see this is a 144 cell tray, I think, and I only have about 4 or 5 zinnia seeds. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try and replant my zinnias again. Same thing with my marigolds. And I do know that some of my marigold seeds are not, let's see, some of them say 2022. Those first 2 I didn't see a date, but they're not super old. Like, yeah, this marigold Cracker Jack right here, this was 2023. I know because I just got it last year. And the French Dwarf, this packet right here does say 2018, which is really, really old, but I'm pretty sure that I mixed seeds together, and so I'm hoping that if I just plant like this time maybe 4 or 5 seeds in each one, basically just use this whole pack, and then just know that, you know, because I can get new marigold seeds from the Dollar Tree if they still have it. I can even get Cracker Jacks if they still have it, but Cracker Jacks did germinate better for me than my other marigolds. But I do have more than just that. I had this marigold lemon and tangerine, I had Mexican mint, and that didn't germinate. I had this white marigold that didn't germinate, and I had a giant yellow, and none of those germinated. So I have no idea what's going on with my seeds. Same thing with basils. I have over, let's see, I have over probably, again, 20 to 30 varieties of basil. And where's that tray at? Did I take that one out already? I don't know, where's my basil tray at? But whenever I looked at it yesterday, definitely not a lot of basil seeds. I don't know what I do with it. And so we need to replant that as well. I am enlisting the help of my son Aiden, because this is lots of seeds to replant over, because I have the 2 trays of marigolds, the zinnias, the basils, not including all of the stuff that I would plant at 4-week, like the squash, the melons, zucchini, pumpkins, cucumbers. And since it is raining back and forth outside, I showed in a previous vlog those 2 beds that I planted carrots and beets in back in November, and they just started to grow. But there are some spaces that are empty, and so I was hoping that I could go ahead and sprinkle some seeds out in the garden, since it is really, really wet outside, and I think it's supposed to be raining for the next few days, and get those watered in naturally with just the natural rainwater. Y'all, I have been looking for my basil plants, and I could not find them in here. I know I planted basil because I wrote the tags, and I literally cannot find them. And I've been looking, like look with me, guys. So all of these are pepper plants, because these are the plants I up potted, so those can't be basils. Again, peppers. All of these are tomatoes. That's tomatoes. This that I just pulled out is, yep, these are all zinnias, because it says California Giant, so this is not it. Okay, then we come down here. Okay, here we have dwarf tomatoes, so that's not it. There we have like eggplants, lavender, tomatillo, ground cherry, so that's not it. And the only thing left on this shelf, the top shelf, has 4 trays of tomatoes that I just put there yesterday, and this one has flowers, because I see California poppies, Iceland, same thing, flowers, because this has snapdragons and bachelor buttons. Again, more flowers, because it's cosmos and stuff, and again more flowers, because all of this is baby breath, straw flower, stuff like that. Then down here, again, flowers. So where in the world is my basils. I know I planted them, but they're literally not here. They're not here. Guys, I just went inside my house to look for the basils and then just realized they're right here. I took them out yesterday to water them and forgot to put them back inside the hoop house, and now it's starting to rain. So I need to put you guys inside the hoop house so that I can use both hands to come get the basils. Okay, now that we're back inside, you can see what I'm talking about. I only have a couple cinnamon basil, one purple leaf basil, and one mammoth basil. None of my other basils have germinated, and I know that my basil seeds are not super old. Well, this Genovese one says 2018, and this says 2021. But like this down here, this back Genovese, maybe I'll try this one because this one is from 2023. But I do have some in here from 2022, and they shouldn't be germinating nothing. So I'm going ahead and assuming that it is user error, that maybe I just kept the soil too damp, and by keeping them underneath here covered and something happened, it was like a fluke. But for the Genovese basil, since I do have a different pack that was for last year, I'm going to just try and use this Genovese basil and see. But everything else, that like my seed packets, I only had one from 2018, which is the Genovese, but everything else is 2021 and 2022. They should be perfectly fine, being only 1 or 2 years old. They germinated perfectly for me last year. So I'm just going to try again and hope that I get any amount of basil. This is a big tray. I think this is a 72 count tray, and I want to have a lot of basil inside my garden. 1 for cut flowers, and then 2 just for making and fresh eating. I will say, dealing with this problem with my zinnias and my basil definitely just gave me more motivation to save seeds this year if I don't want to, you know, spend money on buying all of these seeds again. Because this is licorice basil, sweet Italian, lime, lemon, dark opal, spicy globe, cinnamon, leaf basil, holy basil, mammoth basil, velvet basil, blue spice, Simeon queen, Aldea, another leaf basil. So this is so many different types of basil, and basil goes to seed so easily that I can easily get to save seeds from my basil plants. Because they just go to seed in themselves. I've even had some basil seeds trying to sprout inside of my the bed where I have the garlic at right now. What is it called? The in-ground bed. I haven't let them sprout, but they have, and because I've let them go to seed there. So I know that I can save seeds. It's just, we'll know for sure if I do the second round and I still have crazy germination, if it's user error and I just kept the soil too wet, or if my seeds are just getting old and I need to replace them. Have y'all ever seen basil seeds when they're just laying on wet soil, they start getting wet? I forgot that I was just laying seeds on the soil, and so these were the first ones that I laid on the soil, so that I remembered that I planted these. And when I looked over and saw this white, I thought it was like fungus and was like, what in the world happened to these seeds? But it's happening to all of the ones that have been sitting there a while, where when I first put them, they're just black like this. It's so weird. So I got all my basils replanted. I'm just gonna put soil on top, just some of this soil right here on top, so that I don't disturb them, since they've already started, they're already pretty wet. And then we'll leave them out. I'll leave them out and about, so that, and just make sure that I'm not keeping them too wet, and hopefully that was just a cause, it was just me. not really paying attention and keeping the soil too moist in here. It is really humid in here because it's been raining a lot of days, and I'm hoping that is what the problem is. I had made a list on my phone before I came out here, and I was just going over my list, and I'm really happy. The sun is starting to come out. I'm getting a little hot in here. But the last thing in the hoop house that I wanted to do, because I already replanted the basils, Naya's replanted the zinnias, Aiden's replanted the marigolds, and we turned that shelf right there. The only other thing I wanted to do was start up-potting these tomatoes, the ones that have their true leaves right here, into these trays. And I did go ahead and sprinkle between showers, sprinkle some carrots and carrots and beet seeds outside into the garden beds that already have the carrots and beets. I just sprinkled it in some of the places where it wasn't germinated so high. I mean, it wasn't germinated, so it had like blank spots, and I just sprinkled some in between. I was just thinking about it as I went to take off my hoodie, and as Naya was telling me that I had some zinnia seeds that were empty, and I just thought, I think this season would be a good idea for me to take an inventory of all of my seeds that I have like a lot of, like my basils, my tomatoes, and zinnias and stuff like that, and not just say like I have them, but like write down the varieties I have, and possibly even see how many I have left, because I have so many seedling packs on the ground right here, even with my flower seeds. So I see that double Dutch Rose Cosmo that I have no more seeds of. And as I thought about this, I did go ahead and start, like with my tomatoes, I think it was tomatoes and peppers, put a star on the seeds that were my last seeds and I had no more of, so that I could be mindful of like possibly saving seeds when they sprout in the garden, and like off of my first tomatoes out there, and peppers. But some other things, like I have this right here in front of me, Gold Nugget, or this Clementine, or Sweetheart tomato, and it has a star on it. Matt's Wild Cherry, all of those have stars on it, which means I have no more seeds once, like if those didn't sprout. And if they did, I can go ahead and know to save seeds for those. Okay. One thing I've realized with gardening this year is, because I am a person that struggles with attention issues really bad, that if I did make a list this year, and if I don't stick to that list, then if I don't stick to that list, it's not gonna be okay for me. Where I stuck to my list, I had a list of 12 weeks, 10 weeks, 8 weeks, and 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, and then 0 weeks, and then even 2 weeks after my last frost. And I had each plant that I needed to plant, and I did a whole video on this, but that's really helped me. But not only that, just writing it down, but then having an alarm in my phone, so I have double reminders, because some days I'm not even sure what day of the week it is, but having that reminder that in my phone that says, hey, it's 8 weeks, it's 6 weeks. Like yesterday it beeped and said we were 4 weeks from my last frost date. Having that reminder is really well for my brain, so that way even if I can't get to it that day, it's in the front of my mind, knowing like, okay, we're 4 weeks from my last frost date, even though that was yesterday, so we're a little less than 4 weeks, but knowing that there's something on my list to do. I am actually just writing name tags for okra seeds. I have these 6-pack trays that usually you up-pot, or that I up-pot stuff into, but I don't really eat a lot of okra, and okra actually grows really prolific, especially when it gets really hot. And how many do I have? I thought I had 6. Oh, I do. I have 6 different types of okra. Actually, no. I have 5 different types of okra, and I think I'm gonna do just 2 of each. So that's why I'm gonna do them in these bigger trays, because we don't really eat a lot of okra
and they grow all the way, like they grew past into my last frost. They died back, and then when it got hot again, it started growing again. Like, it was just prolific. And I think okra is going to try to pop up all over my garden. So I'm only going to do 2 of each, not very many, because of how prolific they are. And I'm just going to go ahead and get those started right now into these big trays, especially because the seeds themselves are already really big, and they grow really fast, and they still have 4 weeks to go, and I don't want them to, like, I don't want to have to up pot them from here. So I want them to grow exactly from where they're at now. So I'm only going to put 2 seeds in each one, and like I said, we're 4 weeks from my last frost date, and although the Farmer's Almanac did say that I could start okra March 5th, which was yesterday, I don't want to have to worry about up potting them. So I'm just going to put 2 seeds in each one. If both germinate, I'm just going to leave 1 probably in each container, like take it out, so that way I could just plant the whole seedling in 4 weeks when we're past my last frost date. I have looked at the forecast for the next 10 days, and there's no frost, which it goes all the way to the 19th. And technically, I have talked about this, but technically for where I'm at, coastal South Carolina, zone 8B, it actually said that my last frost date this year should be March 27th. So that really only leaves from the 19th, the lowest from now until the 19th was showing in the mid 40s, like 45. So that only leaves about another week before technically they're saying that I should have a frost date exactly 8 days from the 19th to the 27th. The only reason why I'm saying my last frost date is April 2nd is because 2 years ago it froze into mid-April, and then last year it froze exactly April 2nd. And for those of you who watch all of my videos and keep hearing me say this, I'm sorry, but that is why I keep saying I'm 4 weeks from my last frost date, but really according to the Farmer's Almanac I would be 3 weeks from my last frost date. And we'll see when we get closer to March 27th, and it's really time for and it shows the next 10 days, we'll be able to see if we can go ahead. I probably would still wait till April, just because we had that freak frost in mid-April where it killed a lot of people's like fruit trees and stuff like that. But I just planted that okra. I'm trying to see what else could I plant in these bigger containers. I think I want to wait on pumpkins a little longer. They say not to transplant like squashes and cucumbers and stuff like that, but I've always transplanted those things, and I never had an issue. I think maybe I've had an issue with squashes being stunted some. I'm trying to think. So that's what I'm trying to think if I want to. What do I want to do this year? Maybe I'll wait a little longer, because I have so many of those seeds. Oh, I could do nasturtiums. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do nasturtiums because I have a lot of tiny ones that could go in the Greenstalk. So that's the Tom Thumb, which is dwarf variety, that's gonna go in the Greenstalk with the dwarf tomatoes. I have an Alaska mix. I have a green nasturtium, a glorious gleam, a black velvet, which is going to be so pretty, and a jewel mix. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the rest of this tray to plant nasturtiums. Yes. I think I'm going to go inside and get something to drink, but I'm really happy with the progress I made out here. So this is the tray of tomatoes that I was up potting, and you can see I only have a few left, but I went ahead and up potted 2 more trays of tomatoes. This right here was peppers, and it was already up potted. And then I also planted pumpkins, even though I said I wasn't, but I planted 9 varieties of pumpkins. And down here I also planted okras and nasturtiums. So I'm starting to sweat. hot in here. I know there's some other stuff, like obviously I still have some more tomatoes that need potting, but the reason why I'm not worried about these is because although some of them have their true leaves, they're still on the smaller sides, and these are even smaller. The ones that I potted were much bigger, and so I'm happy about that. I'm happy with the amount I've got done. Being able to go take a break because it is really hot in here now. It's supposed to be high at 79, so of course in here it's way hotter. And I'm happy that we moved the shelving this way, and it just looks so nice to see all of those tomatoes up there and right here separated and looking nice. If you live by me and you need tomato seedlings, definitely hit me up because all of those tomatoes cannot fit in my garden. I'm gonna go ahead and go. I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye.